let's address the elephant in the room. You just said a whole lot without saying a whole lot. And I don't want to go into the details, and I don't think it's necessary to go into details. Sure. So then one of the things that bug me is when you move on from a label, specifically you move on from Reach, or someone is moving on from a situation, sometimes the fans start thinking it has to do, they're spiritually unyoked, or there's an ethical issue going on. And for someone like you, it's just quite simple, and you can elaborate as much as you want. It's quite simple that when you stepped in, there was not a ton of leverage for you as KB, the artist, even though you had a groundswell and even though you had the grit and the drive. And everybody knew that. When I first met you, your music wasn't the most amazing music, but I knew you could drive, and I knew you loved God, and I knew you had that enough talent to get to where you got to now. It was fair to see that. But is it fair to say that you moving on and having a situation with Sony has very little to do with anything personal, has very little to do with any type of they're not equally yoked or any type of spiritual debacle, but quite simply, you were on Reach, you got there without a ton of leverage. I'm assuming you renegotiated and your contract updated, and then you just got a much better situation to go partner with a bigger label with more muscle. Is that a fair assessment? And that's honoring them, by the way, because I'm not going to have any type of moral judgment on. I don't know what that first deal looked like. I just would assume that it was substantially in their favor. And probably because they not only did they have everything you described that labels have, but what Reach had in 2009, 2010 was a machine and a cult-like following that they plugged you into and they plugged Andy into. And I don't remember who else was signed. But there was... Derek Minor. Yeah, Derek Minor. Yeah. That everybody went on to do great things because of that cult-like following. So is that a fair assessment? The reason you left Reach had nothing to do with anything personal. It was just, hey, man, Sony had an amazing situation for you. And you told me a bit about the Sony situation. Again, feel free to share as much as you want to. But is that a fair assessment?
I think it's partly true. I think it'd be dishonest to say that everything is purely mechanical, but there isn't a heart component, that there hasn't been a history of certain things that have transpired that push you into that direction, or that the Lord uses to confirm to you that it might be time for you to transition that means something to you personally. So I think it's a combination. I think that a lot of the things that I just shared was not my attempt to describe my deal at Reach. I have a tremendous amount of respect for many of the brothers there, and sisters for that matter, and I would not have done what Kanye did when he put out the contract. That's why I'm saying that I think some of what he did is good, and some I'm not certain if that's the right way, because we do have to be integral. I signed the contract. Now there may be some ethical things going on around there. Artists have to ask their questions if there was legal representation. If you sign a contract without legal representation, something unethical has just happened. Okay, so just hold on to that. If somebody is pushing you to sign something you have not had, in fact, artists, what you can do if you are looking to get with a label, and I have thoughts about that, is you can put that in the negotiation. When they give you the deal memo, you will pay my lawyer costs, because most of us are broke. So we can't afford to bring some big wig lawyer in. And let me know, because I'll give you my lawyer's info, and she will make sure you're taken care of. Okay. So I'm not trying to make statements about that contract in particularly. Okay. Even though I keep going on that was sort of a rabbit trail. But I think in general, my leaving Reach was a culmination of several things. Yes, there was. I have to also honor and say that the leaders there gave me. They made me feel extremely valued by going over and beyond to match kind of, or sort of honor the request that I was making in what it would look like if there would continue to be a partnership here. And at some point, even when all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, one has a deeper motivation, okay? It's sort of a calling. I don't want to put this on the Lord, like God made me leave. That's a cop-out. But there is leanings where you're saying it feels like it's time. Especially if you don't do things hastily. my decision was bathed in prayer, bathed in counsel. And here's the thing, I even invited those who were on the other side of the negotiation, like the executives, into my thought process through the whole way. So nobody's surprised. Nobody's like, this dude walked in and banged, took a baseball bat to all the plaques and cursed everybody out and left. None of that at all. I want to honor God in everything that I do, particularly in the difficult spaces like leaving an organization. So there is, in some respects, a wonderful situation that I have where I could enter into a partnership where I maintain my ownership, and I have it forever. That every song that I make truly belongs to me, and I want to honor Reach and say that they were absolutely open to that conversation as well. There's a lot. I'm particularly thinking about one individual on the executive team who is a well-meaning, good-hearted, God-loving man who will want, even if there's something that's been going astray, I know that man will hear it, be convicted on it, and try to correct it. I've seen that with my own two many, many times, and I can attest to that. So though there is indeed a partnership that I really appreciate, that's not really the banner I want to wave when I think about my leading. The main reason that I want of my sort of going into this is really more of a burden that I have for the season. I think it was a transition and it was time for that. I'm also thinking about what it means for Christian hip hop, which I don't know if you know this, but I care very deeply about Christian hip hop as a genre. I do. I care about people being able to provide for their families. You want to talk about Black empowerment. I watch people going all day about talking about social justice, which is great. We talk about that as well. I love the conversation about enfranchising those who are left out of the industry. But don't you realize that Christian hip hop is literally a microcosm of everything that you're marching about in the streets?
Right.
You have a bunch of people on the outside, many of them Black and brown,
Right.
who come to this space to find jobs and function and purpose, not to mention on top of that, they're spreading the gospel across the world. I am here because a Christian hip hop artist shared the gospel through his music. That's why I'm here. I don't want to undermine that. And if I'm serious about justice, then I want to empower that. Okay? And since that's the case, we need to have a multiplicity. There should not be, whenever the middle class disappears. I've been telling people this for 7 years. As you're seeing the middle class of Christian hip hop just disappearing. People can't provide for themselves. Radio stations going out of business. Magazines closing. Festivals closing. Promoters saying, I can't be here. I'm going to another genre.
Right.
When you see that happening, alarm bells should go off because we're making money. I'm just being honest. I don't know. It could be downhill for me right now. That's okay. But in the heyday, I sold 20,000 records first week. I outsold Young Thug. You had basically 5 to 6 dudes who were absorbing all of the money that was available to Christian hip hop. 5 to 6 dudes, and I was one of those guys. And I feel that, and I say, well, no. We need diversity. We need to spread. We need to empower. We need to continue to for those who are doing things that care about this space, like your show. We need to lend ourselves. I don't care what adjustments you have to make to be there, because we need to empower us. And I thought that what I was hoping to do with this new partnership is to really spread around, bring more attention to folks and that are not, in the limelight of the upper class. It's the upper class and then nobody else. No, we need to. We need to spread out. There needs to be all kinds of Christian hip hop artists on all kinds of labels that are all doing well. What it has felt like for me, that I have felt conviction over, is like there's a doorway, and there's basically one guy standing in the doorway, right? And there's no light on behind him, but all the lights in front of him. All the light is shining on this one guy standing in the doorway, but there's a whole room of people behind him that are literally able to see what they're doing through the little cracks that go around this person's body. So we're basically in this room forgotten because everything is being absorbed by the guy standing in the middle of the doorway. And Christian hip hop for a long time has been that. What we need is multiple doorways. We also need people that are willing to get out the way and say, have you checked out this guy? I don't need a feature. It ain't about no feature or a shout out. I need people that are going to connect me to your manager, connect me to your lawyer. Who's your merch company? Who can do my merch? Give me things that I can. You went on to some night show. Who got you that? How did that happen?
Right.
We're not talking about theoretical and honorary pats on the back. I see you doing, God bless you. But no, share power for the purpose of enfranchising, and that happens through diversity. So that's also a big piece of the story.